I've got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Okay. I've got some things I can show for today's meeting. We could also look at the agenda that I proposed and see if there are other topics that that I might have missed that we want to include.
Excellent. And just to let you guys know, I have a hard stop at 5 o'clock. I have a telecon at 5:05.
Okay, that sounds fine.
And that gives
I
me
did.
2.5 minutes to run to the restroom, and then I'll be ready.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, I did see Sean's Google Doc, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this and put it into our GoToMeeting. Oh, thank you, Bruce. Looks like it's right there. So yeah, if everybody could contribute to the minutes, that would be great. And yeah, I've got the agenda up there. So as we're getting folks here, I'd welcome if there are other topics. Just kind of a full schedule already, but you know, if there's something important missing, let's get it on the list.
Yeah, that sounds good. One of the things on the agenda, I mean, maybe we're going to talk about the summer meeting, but I sent an email out the other day about this. You know, there's going to be a major eclipse on August 21st that's going to impact the entire lower 48 from Oregon down to South Carolina. And I attended a workshop in Columbia, South Carolina on Friday and Saturday this past weekend. And there's going to be major impacts expected from travel nightmares on the road to you know, just having cities unable to accommodate the hundreds of thousands of people that might be in, you know, going into those locations. So that might be something to talk about at the summer meeting as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would be very timely. It would be just what, 3 weeks or 4 weeks before.
Right, right. And the path of totality goes through Carbondale, Illinois, which isn't too far to the south. And they're planning all sorts of festivals and expecting, you know, upwards of 1 million or so people. And same thing with Columbia, South Carolina. We're saying that 100 million people live within a 1-day drive of the path of totality. And a lot of people are going to decide to drive there when they hear about it a day or two beforehand on the news.
Wow. That would be a fun discussion then. I think just you know, kind of living a scientific or looking at it at a natural event through some scientific eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. We're also working with NASA. They're getting us some funding to connect a lot of broadcast meteorologists using GeoCollaborate, so we can deliver some real-time satellite imagery and eclipse visualizations to their stations, so they can put it on the air.
Do people still do viewing boxes? I know the last full one that I was at, everyone was making these viewing boxes where you put a pinhole and see it inside a shoebox or something like that. Is that still?
Yeah, I think. Yep. People are doing that. They're going to show different ways that you can view it. I mean, some people hold up colanders and look through all those holes and watch the eclipse through the holes of the colander, and have eclipse glasses are being made all over the place. And yeah.
Just to clarify, they look at the shadow of the holes coming through the colander. But
That's right. Yeah, they don't look through some people might put the colander on their head and look through the holes. I don't know.
Right, right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think maybe we should go ahead and get started. So, Dave, how about I can go ahead and show. I was planning on showing the agenda And I've got some questions about the use case template that I wanted to bring up with this group. So
Great, great.
Okay, I just made you the presenter, Karen.
yes, I got it, I think. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so let me bring up, let me think now, it's in Word. Yeah, the working agenda for our data-driven decision-making workshop next week, and I'm going to be going up to New York for that, and I think Bob Chen is going to be there, and Dave Jones is going to be there. Is anyone else in attendance planning on attending on the April 13th? All right.
I know.
So
I know Carrie Hicks is going to be there from Duke. She's usually on this call too, I think. But she told me she got pulled into another meeting this afternoon.
oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize she's been joining us here. That's great. So just quickly, here's what's going to be happening. I think I can show the 4 sessions. There is a strategy document which basically includes this use case template, the operational readiness levels, and some discussion about our process of testing data sets with the All Hazards Consortium membership. And in a way, I think this meeting is intended to set the stage for generating the use cases and basically getting buy-in from this community that this work that we're doing to identify data sets, and especially from our perspective, data sets that we can offer from our community, the ESA Federation, for their use in the future, and they're quite interested in quick payoffs, things that can can be integrated within 6 months or less. So so that's just a quick introduction. The other thing, let's see, it's on my PowerPoint. We'll be going over that, but I did want to talk real briefly about the May 27th webinar that was run by Tom Moran, and he really had a great group there representing a variety of what they're calling their sectors. So it's electrical, transportation, fleet management, the food sector. Somebody who's responsible for delivering food to most of the grocery stores in the East Coast, and transportation like delivery. Somebody from UPS participated. So what he did was go over questions. I was very impressed with how he ran the session. There was a preliminary discussion about these 4 modes that people in these communities work in doing their situational awareness, and then reacting when a threat occurs and when a disaster actually hits. And so these 4 categories, blue sky, gray sky, dark sky, catastrophic, just show that movement from a blue sky, everything's just fine, but you're monitoring. And for example, in that case, they're often monitoring the weather. They're looking at how they're fixing their routine maintenance and sometimes, people's power is out, and so they've got that kind of regular business going on. And then gray sky, when they know that some storm is coming that may threaten operations. Dark sky is it's happening. Catastrophic is a sandy kind of occurrence. So that was explained. And then he basically would ask a number of questions about the what kind of data that they use. And so I thought that I've got my handwritten notes, and I had intended to transform these into something that could be more easily shared. But I want to give just maybe a 5-minute overview. There was some pretty interesting feedback. A number of things that I'm calling just basic Earth observations. So things like wind, speed direction, maximum gusts, lightning, ice, snow, storm surge. So these were all kind of things that our group within the Federation might know about and be working on. Another couple more from a different person: flash flooding, both riverbanks or inside the country as well as coastal. Wildfires, especially important on the West Coast and in the Southwest. Let me see. So those were the kinds of Earth observations that were mentioned. And most of those were mentioned actually during the situational awareness. And Dave, of course, has been working with them for a couple of years now, I think. And so there's a lot of weather data that they're already taking advantage of. But what we want to look for is some, additional features that can be useful for them. There was also what I'm calling modeling results, Earth observation models. So, for example, during gray sky, so that means that they know that there's something's coming. They want the storm forecasting. How rapidly is the storm forming? What's your confidence factor? What's the direction of the storm? So these are all the kinds of things that you get out of models. Other people talked about expanding their field of view, if you will, from blue sky to gray sky to see, well, okay, where is the storm now? Where is it? Is it going to head in my direction? So they need to look at a larger area for a potential impact. And there was also an interesting comment, Ken is on the line today, about being able to look at past events and the responses that were made in past events. What did they learn in past events that could now help them for this impending threat? So I thought about, I think you're calling them event albums now, but that whole idea of archiving information about a past event and what kind of data helped and how it was used. Also during gray sky and was damage prediction models. I don't know if anybody's doing that kind of thing, but if you know a storm is coming, can you kind of predict what might be the storm surge or what might be earthquake damage? Well, that's, I don't know. Maybe there are predictions that are done well in advance of earthquakes. Another interesting point was their need during gray sky to outreach to their community to prepare them. And I thought about some of the work people in ESIP have been doing for that kind of pushing information out to communities. And I know FEMA and NOAA, there's a lot of official ways that information is done. But outreach of information was an important topic that came up a couple of times. During the gray sky, they also need to know where, if they see that impending threat is likely to hit them, where are they going to pre-stage their recovery operations? So where are there safe places? Where will they avoid road closures or other issues? From gray sky, they moved into dark sky. More outreach, informing customers about what to expect. Looking at where they might have to prioritize response, like hospitals. One person in the food services area talked about actually reading the news and looking to find out information about power outages and going to utility websites and the like for tracking that kind of information. So that really sounded like a service that would be useful, where that kind of information would be collected. Other things in dark sky was modeling the damage area. That was also true of the impending event, but now that you know it's kind of upon you, to get a better sense of maybe higher accuracy of what the damage might be. Also information, what I called static information, where are your critical customers? This is stuff that probably these people know exactly where it is. But they're also doing more intensive weather monitoring and probably want to get, at this point, much more accurate information. They're going to be looking at how to get their emergency crews located to help now that they are in this disaster happening and some problems occurring. So a couple of areas really did talk about that need to be able to pre-stage their operations in a safe area that would have access to areas that are going to be supported. Also, another comment about afterwards, looking back and evaluating that predictive information to see how accurate it was, and so that they can learn from that information should a similar event occur in the future. An emphasis on safety of crews, so what kind of information would help them maintain the safety of their personnel out there doing repair work. Lots of interest in damage assessment, road closures, debris, road closures like when they get wiped out. So I think some flooding data that we've had, if that data is high resolution enough to help in localized area, I think could be quite interesting to explore. They talked a little bit about the use of drones. I think we will expect to see a lot of that, especially in the catastrophic event. I do believe FEMA is looking at that. And in fact, damage, for example, from tornadoes, I actually saw some drone data from the tornado that touched down in Missouri just this past week. Maybe it was even just yesterday. Let's see if I've got some more new information. Another interesting point, data from customers on damage. So we've talked about doing crowdsourcing. Like I know there was a project looking at the idea of, can we crowdsource flood information to say, hey, it's flooded here, collecting that kind of information, making it readily available. What areas cannot be restored quickly? So, for example, can you use Earth observation data to say, this neighborhood is flooded and it looks like that flood water isn't going to recede for X amount of days. So people who are out there bringing power back up, they're going to be, they'll have good information to put their resources where power can be restored. or there might be areas where they have to cut power because of the damage that has occurred. I was thinking about a earthquake data a project that was done out at Scripps that they could detect by monitoring seismic information. They could get even a few seconds of information about the potential earthquake, or actually actual earthquake, because those signals are kind of the preliminary steps of the earthquake. And using that information might be enough to shut off gas lines before the earthquake actually breaks them. So another interesting potential area. Predicting damage. Let's see. I have just a couple more notes here about models and Earth observing data. I think I might have covered all of the kind of unique. After the catastrophic, high accuracy damage assessment information is useful. Especially for people who are like restoring, bringing food back to areas where buildings might have been damaged, as well as loss of electricity. So information that would help them understand the impact of the event, what area, what things are down and not operating. So very high quality, high accuracy damage assessment information. So those are my notes. Bob, Bob Chen, you were there. Do you want to add anything? Actually, I'm not entirely sure Bob's here today. So anyway, I thought it was a very interesting conversation. It was a pretty quick paced, 2 hours. Very impressed with Tom's working. He knows these people, and he definitely kept the pace moving. So I will eventually get my notes into a written form that will be more easily shared. But any comments? Yeah.
Yeah, this is Dave. I was just going to add, because I see that Maggie's on too, that that there is a need for one or two people asked about, like you mentioned, earthquake information, and how quickly might we be able to get that kind of stuff. And so I thought that was a great opportunity to plug in Maggie when the time comes, when we're talking about that kind of data, because Maggie's been doing that kind of work for a long time.
Right. Right, and I think that the group was primarily East Coast based, but they were aware of the issues in the West Coast, which are different, especially with regard to earthquakes and wildfires. So basically, our next step is to look at use cases, and as you know, that'll be part of the agenda next week, and this is where I have it. This is, well, let me see. The All Hazards Consortium has this website, and they have a use case template. I'll go ahead and copy this and put it up on our, share it here. There we go. In case anyone wants to take a look at this site. This is what they're using thus far for capturing the use cases, and this is kind of, I think, an activity that will pick up after next week's workshop. So they've got, a contact of information, and then what problem are you trying to fix, and what sectors are involved. And I think, I don't think this has been modified since it went up probably in January timeframe, or maybe even earlier. But they are talking to a couple more sectors, so that'll be changed. So both of these, a problem statement, what problem you're trying to fix, kind of similar, but basically describing what I would call the use case from a problem perspective. And then identifying what decisions need to be made, who are the stakeholders to engage, and the essential elements of the information. And I'm not sure that, I did present some information to them about use cases because, as you know, ESA Federation has been doing a lot of work with use cases, and I think I can get to it easily here. I think it was part of some stuff I picked up from Peter about use cases, although, sorry, that's not really the best one. Maybe it's this one. Yeah, this one's better. So I think I might have shared this with the group. If not, I'll be sure to post it in today's notes at our website. But this is kind of our basic outline for a use case format, and it covers, well, one of the things I pointed out was this idea of triggers, what is going to initiate this use case, because the use case is really kind of a story about what happened. And I'm not sure that the group, the All Hazards Consortium group working on this problem, looks at it quite that way. Right now, they're talking about 3 use cases. One they call situational awareness. The second one is getting resources to where they need to do the repair work in recovery. And the third one is on damage assessment. So they're all pretty broad topics. And I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but I like to think of a use case as being pretty focused on not just situational awareness, which covers, could easily cover 10 use cases or more, but to be a little more specific so that when you're looking at a particular data set, you can better understand how it can be used. And that's going to be, I think, really critical for our next steps. So I wanted to kind of introduce this. I think that this is, if there's some feedback we can generate now for the All Hazards Consortium, I'd be open to that. What do other people think, comparing, our traditional use case format with their current template? Comments?
Karen, this is Ken. I guess it would be helpful when they get to that point of seeing some examples that have actually been filled into this template, I guess.
Oh, that is an excellent point.
Because it really depends on the matter of, the detail that they put into it, right, I guess.
Yes, that's right. Carrie, who was with Duke, had actually brought up a usability analysis that she had worked out. And at one point I'd asked her if she could turn it into a use case, but I know she's really busy, and I haven't been able to find out if that has happened. But I think that is a very good thing, and I guess what we might be able to do is if we can identify a data product that we think might be really useful based on what limited information we have from the All Hazards Consortium on their description of their use case, we might be able to put it into a more detailed format so that they could understand the benefits of revising their information. But it may indeed be the case that we could extract the information from the format that they've got thus far.
Yeah, because like you were saying before, I mean, in this template, you can make the use case very general, or you can make it very specific. So that would really depend on how they're going to use it, I guess.
Yes, right. Right. And I think from our point of view, there was, would have done well to put all of these into one briefing package here, but I believe this picture of operational readiness levels and mapping them to work that we're quite familiar with technology readiness levels relates is something that might have been put together by Aaron, but from my perspective, this discovery and the feasibility is going to be what our challenge is, to try to discover and propose candidate data sets based on what we can learn from the All Hazards Consortium. So we have a discovery step, then we have a test and evaluation step where we can configure these data sets and push them through the test bed, the GeoCollaborate test bed, and then moving into operational levels. And this is the working definitions now of operational levels, and ORL 1 is the most mature. ORL 4 is the least mature, so it's kind of a flipped order from our TRL definitions, and it's compressed into 4 levels. But the All Hazards Consortium, I think, are very happy with this discussion. And I did mention, we had talked about this last week at the Trusted Data, and I did mention some of the comments that Bob Chen had pointed out about how in this operational level, where it truly is, say, operationalized, what does that mean? And it might have a different meaning for long-term availability and a commitment for data that is going to be, readily available on a long-term basis. So that was something that we brought up, Dave. I know you heard about that when we had our meeting with Tom last Friday. So
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and we're putting together samples. One of the things that Tom wanted to see are what kind of data sets that are out there that kind of map to these ORL levels as well. And that's what I've been working on over the last couple of days to get out to Tom so he can look at them and then give feedback for whether he wants any additional, wants to see any additional type of products. I think he really wants to give the attendees for the workshop an idea for what these operational readiness levels, what it means for when we start to introduce data sets, test data sets, and then make them, put them up to ORL 1, which is the top level, ready to go. So these operational decision makers can know, oh, this is an ORL 1. We can use this for decision making. It's trusted. It's been through the process, all that sort of stuff.
Would you like to flip through these charts, or I know we have a couple more topics here.
I guess we could, quickly. I mean, do you want to throw it over to me, or do you want to just go through them each one?
Let's see, how easy is it to throw it over? I've got it up on my screen here.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, it looks like I've been made the presenter, so I can, let me bring that up real quick, Karen, because I'll just bring up my PowerPoint and just show it real quickly. So let me click show my screen. So can you see my screen right now?
There it goes, yes.
Okay, so this is the first one starting at ORL4, which is just kind of testing this sort of data set. It shows on the right-hand side what the data set is for power outage information for the food, fuel, and pharmacy sector. This is an example data set of the red dots of who was out of power in Sandy when it comes to the fuel sector. It's really interesting. This particular data set is derived from point of sale router activity. So when somebody purchases something, that purchase goes through a router and then up to Hughes Corporation. They can monitor that, obviously 24/7, 365, and the ones, the routers that aren't working, means that the power is out. So we can get a hold of that data and display it as a GIS file, and then that data is queryable. The second, and these are all ORL level 4s, which means they're not operationally ready all the time. This is an example of a data set from NASA Sport showing the tornado tracks from the Huntsville, Tuscaloosa tornadoes back in April of 2011, where some analytics can be performed on satellite imagery to derive these tornado paths. So we'll look further into this and gather more information to see if we can give the operational readiness level a higher number, if this imagery can be available sooner. But right now it looks like it wouldn't be operational for 12 months because we haven't even talked to the folks at Sport about creating this type of product on an operational basis. The other one for ORL4, this example, is the GOES 16 Lightning Mapper, the GLM. It's returning some fabulous information back in its testing phases. Right now it's ORL4 because we don't know a whole lot about it and we don't have the data available to put into a GeoCollaborate testbed. But this is some of the imagery showing some of the lightning strikes within thunderstorms, which is pretty spectacular. Going to ORL3, which leads us into Ken Kaiser's project and some of the data sets that he's working on to be event-driven data sets. So this is something that we know is out there. It's a project that's been funded. It's kind of nearly operational. It's in a testing phase, not guaranteed. It could improve situational awareness and decision making and targeting operations for something like this in a 6 to 12 month time frame. And the description is on the right hand side. Going to ORL2, this is a NOAA product showing again a little bit of data analytics being run on a satellite image. And the red highlights you see are areas that are out of power because of coastal storms that came through the area. So while this data is available all the time, the analytics on the data isn't available all the time, where we can derive what lights should be on that aren't, and then color them a different color. So this is something, if we gave feedback to NOAA saying, hey, this is a critical data set for the utility infrastructure, for critical infrastructure, and doing initial damage assessment, perhaps NOAA would do this on a more operational basis. Or somebody that has direct readout ground station for this NOAA data could apply those algorithms as well. Again, higher resolution satellite imagery. This is of a train derailment and a big fire. This imagery could be available pretty quickly, but it would have to be tasked by a private sector satellite provider, and that costs money. So this might be something that's available through a GeoCollaborate testbed, where somebody would have to pay for the data and then bring it into the sharing environment for the decision-making group. And then this is one ORL2, which is a satellite-derived hotspot. You can see in the inset in the Bahamas just today, there's a hotspot with a plume detected. And then there's a more general smoke plume on the southern part of the Gulf of Mexico coming from the Yucatan area and Mexico drifting over towards Florida. So this is all detected by satellite and is close to being operational. We just have to do some more testing with it. ORL1, which means it's ready to go today. This is an example of a Department of Energy web GIS layer of critical infrastructure for processed fuel pipelines. So these are all the pipelines that are distributing processed fuel to various distribution areas throughout the country. This next one is the live watches, warnings, and advisories from the National Weather Service. That's operational 24/7. It has an operational server in College Park. It has a backup server in Boulder, Colorado. and gives all the latest National Weather Service advisories that are available. This is used operationally within the Fleet Response Working Group, which is the testbed environment we stood up for the movement of fleet utility vehicles. And this one that everybody probably recognizes is the National Weather Service radar. This is a national composite of individual radars that's available 24/7, 365, and brings together 122 operational Weather Service radars into a single map view. And this updates every 6 to 11 minutes, depending on the mode that the radars are in. So that just gives you a brief rundown of ORL level 4 through ORL level 1, and then we can be adding data sets into this sort of template to put through the pipeline of testing with the goal of moving these things up towards ORL 1, and then they become trusted data layers within the collaboration environment, so people know they can trust those data layers. And eventually, I'd love for the ORL 1 data layers to get some sort of ESIP icon or logo next to it, showing that the ESIP Federation has gone through and tested these data layers, and sort of a seal of approval, if you will, for data. Because nobody's doing that right now, and I think ESIP should move into that area to really capture some recognition in this quickly evolving area of data-driven decision making. So, Karen?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I like those examples. I think that'll be very, very well received next week.
And I think it's something easy for them to understand. They've seen some of these data sets used, and it gives them a taste into, the kind of work that the Federation is doing and looking at various data sets. So they'll have confidence that there's an organization behind it that's taking a look at data, but also can open their eyes up to other forms of data. I mean, we're very familiar with the science data sets, but I mean, heck, pipelines, there's a data set out there for low-hanging bridges, for low clearance bridges, which are really important. So I think all sorts of data need to be brought into this environment.
Yeah. All right, well, actually, that's kind of a good segue into our next topic. Although I could open it up. Are there any questions or comments on ORLs and where that's going? Oh, okay, well, let me quickly go over then the trusted data a discussion we had last week, and we had a good number of folks there. And I think that, let me see, let me go ahead and I'll pull up the trusted data. Oh, there it is. Yes, I basically was going through the definition that I had proposed back at the winter meeting and tried to get some additional feedback. And I think there was some really good comments that came back, a real emphasis about exercising, that trusted data has to be used regularly, and that there has to be an opportunity for people to exercise it so that they know how to access it, how to use it, training for those kinds of usage. Well, Phil McBailin joined us from California with Maggie's group there, and this had some really interesting comments based on his experience, and used the term, to operationalize the data. So it's not just a one-shot availability, but all of the meanings behind that. Like Bob Chen was commenting about, you basically have reliability, maintainability aspects that now have to come into play if if this is going to be a operationalized trusted data set. Also some discussion about trusted data versus a trusted data source, related but different topics. So two separate things, and something that we might want to at least acknowledge as we move forward in defining trusted data and proposing a candidate definition to ESIP. Some discussion about what would be the disclaimer associated with trusted data, that there are some legal issues and liability issues that would need to be addressed in some form. So another comment about availability of trusted data post-disaster. So can't just totally assume that it would be available after the fact. Let's see, there was an emphasis on data interoperability, so that I think this is something that GeoCollaborate and our testbed activity has tried to address, that you can't just assume that your software is going to be embedded in the end user's system. So it has to be something that they can easily integrate into their known operation. Let me see. Oh, an interesting comment about there would be perhaps short-lived processes like a chemical plume or an oil spill, and so that there might be a special way of handling trusted data for these kinds of cases, and with its specialized use. So another aspect for us to examine moving forward. So I think it was really an excellent start on our definition activity, and I propose that we follow up with that on the summer meeting. So let me just see here about the agenda. Any comments about where we are with that, and potential for follow-up for the summer meeting?
Hey, Karen, this is Dave. I think that's a great idea. I think that should be a session itself where we can come out with some sort of, agreed upon definition for trusted data. And this information from this location that you captured is terrific. I really think we need to run with this ball so we can get something, and hold it up, by saying, hey, we're moving down this road, and we can share it with All Hazards Consortium and their sensitive information, group, so they can see that we're coming up with this definition.
Yeah, I think it does. It's very complementary to the operational readiness levels that, once you reach ORL1, is there, can we have some kind of a process where it becomes trusted, and then is it trusted for certain applications? We just would have a whole lot of questions that we should be able to answer, what, and just what it means.
So Karen, this is Ken. Just looking at the list that you had up there before of the trusted data concepts, I think this has kind of evolved over time. I guess I would start to question whether trusted data is the right term once you start looking at some of these aspects that have been listed here. One that jumps out at me is current, the freshness and speed of delivery. That's not really a trustworthiness aspect, right? That's just whether it's timely or not for a particular application. I mean, it could be the most trustworthy data available, but maybe the latency is too long for rapid response type things. So I think some of that gets a little fuzzy, perhaps. And another one that caught my eye was compliant with data standards. And I'm not so sure that's trustworthiness or not either. That may be an interoperability aspect, but not necessarily determining whether the data is trustworthy or not.
Very good comments. So I think in terms of operational versus trusted data, you know, when you've got data that's going to be feeding into an operational system,
Yeah.
that criteria is a little different than the actual trusted nature of it.
Right.
So I think, yeah, that would be, don't know how to section that out, because I think the other aspects are important, but maybe there's another, you know, a complementary characteristic besides trustworthiness that we need to capture. So yeah. So thanks for that input. I think it would be very very interesting discussion. You know, if we held a kind of a little workshop session at the summer meeting to try to ferret some of these things out.
Yeah, because I think you get some interesting perspectives perhaps on that with a bigger group.
Yeah. Related comment too, regarding the summer meeting. We've just got another few more minutes here. I think I'm hopeful that we will have enough information from the All Hazards Consortium to look at some use cases, and Ken, like you said, take a look at what they have provided and see what information we can extract from that, and you know, whether it helps us in identifying candidate products and going through the steps that we foresee in collaborating with All Hazards Consortium, going from candidate to test to operational. And then again, so I think use cases, I think a discussion about trusted data is going to be valuable. And so I wanted to ask here, what other topics? I do want to get a placeholder in. It's due on the 10th, which is just around the corner. And whether we want to ask for 2 sessions or one. And one other aspect would be, I think we'll have a little more time to think about this, but would we want to identify a participant, maybe someone with some expertise in these areas, to join us, or perhaps even suggest speakers for the plenary sessions that might be occurring at the summer meeting. So let me open it up to some more comments.
Well, I think the use case discussion would be very interesting, and I would add, not only do well-defined use cases help you identify candidate data sets, but a lot of times it's really good at identifying gaps in both data and technology that's available. So, you know, if you can define well enough in the use case what you're trying to achieve, you can potentially figure out pretty quickly that, well, you know, this is where we need to get, but they're just not these functions to process this type of data to get to that point. So that's some places to work on, right? Some deficiencies that need to be addressed.
Great points. Yeah, looking for gaps might give our researchers ideas for, you know, where to take their research even.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think that as we move through this whole process, that separately, not as a part of the All Hazards Consortium, we can take a lot of what we're learning and feed it back to researchers. Because, you know, the All Hazards Consortium is all about operation and operational movements, but it doesn't mean that the Federation can't learn from this activity and take it back and see if it has value to input into various research environments.
Yep, very good point. So we've often heard from Maggie about her work with Cascadia and her other exercises. So Maggie, do you think, or if, will there be some reports and topics you would like to bring up?
Let's see. When is the meeting this summer? It's July?
July, I think it's 18th through 25th. It's a week. I think it's the week around July 18th.
Okay. I'm not sure if the Clearinghouse will have had their summer exercise. They were saying it was going to be in July, but they might move it to August. But I'm certain that there's plenty of stuff that they will have been up to that I can report out on. And as to the trusted data stuff, I'm sure that Phil Balin or Anne or I can talk about what we've been doing with the Clearinghouse. So whether or not we talk about, exercises or, what we've been doing as far as our experiences. And then I know that you had brought up the topic of, sort of the data products that we've been developing. We can talk about any of those subjects. So, if you think of anything that you might want us to cover, I'm certain that there's plenty of topics that we can talk about.
Great. Okay. I'll plan on that. How about others who are still here? Topics that you'd like to see brought up? Well, I'll tell you what. Here's what I'll plan on doing. I will go ahead and submit 2 sessions, one on trusted data and one on use cases, and I'll look at wording it to tie it in, be a little clearer. Use cases is pretty broad, and we'll probably, I think, look at opportunities for then evolving the actual agenda for the 2 sessions at our next Telecon coming up.
That could probably, hey Karen, this is Dave. That could probably be like one of the main goals of the discussion, at least in the front, because there are probably, we can give feedback in a session for how the all hazards and utility, work is going. And also, I mentioned in the beginning this eclipse, that's happening. So it could be, we talk about some stuff related to, that, or what kind of data and information are being tapped into. That doesn't have to be a big part of it, but certainly could mention it.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. So, yeah, I'll work those factors in to the discussions, and we'll probably have some opportunity to evolve the definitions a bit more, but at least we'll put in our request for the 2 sessions, and I think we do have enough topics and material to warrant that time at the summer meeting. All right. Well, I think we're at around 5 o'clock. Do we have any other things people want to bring up before we call today?
Yeah, this is Steph McLean. I just had one quick thing when you're talking about the eclipse. and the other stuff that we've been talking about, other kind of disasters in the past, do we have anybody that has a feed on hotel reservations? Because that's probably one measure that I could say of how many people are coming as opposed to. I was just wondering if we have a way to get that.
You mean to see the eclipse or come to the meeting?
I'm saying coming to how booked are the hotels to what proximity of the line of totality?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question. They're all sold out in Columbia, South Carolina, and most of South Carolina. I know that.
Right.
I'm not sure about the rest of the nation, but I know that a lot of hotels are already booked, and I think it's spreading out sort of from the path of totality where people can stay. Oh yeah, people are renting out rooms in their houses and doing all that sort of stuff in many.
Yeah, so maybe Airbnb would be one source that could, that kind of thing. All right.
It'll be an interesting event for a much more interesting distraction from what's happening in the U.S. these days.
Sorry, Karen, I have to drop off. Thanks for running the call.
Sure thing. Okay, so we'll be set to get some notes out this time. But thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, everyone.
I'll put this up on YouTube and put the URL in the notes.
Great. Thanks, Bruce.